Morning. So I'm Dave, and I always recall when I do a presentation something I learnt from my father, which was when he used to go around rural churches on a sort of doing some preaching. He'd often take something as an object lesson to make it memorable and to draw comparisons and make it real for people. And hence I'm wearing my cap, because this is normally how people see me. And especially this year, because it's been raining so much, it's great to have a cap that can keep you warm but also keep the rain off. But I won't continue wearing that in church. Well, I've also got other object lessons. So, we had a reading earlier, which is about the vine. And this is my my secateurs. And I bought these secateurs on a pruning course, to prune trees. And the vine tender has to go around and to cut out the dead wood sometimes. So that's a part of the armory that we've got. I've also got these things. There's two of these. They're really, really important, not only to keep you dry and warm, but to protect your toes as well. And these are great for protecting your hands. Okay. And then, of course, we've got these. And these are our tools that we use often. And it's all of these are really important. The reason I'm bringing these up is because in the Bible, and this is our other tool that we use. In the Bible, there's so many stories that are related to the sort of the earth and growing, and there's so many illustrations there about, and there's even pastoral care is in there, and how you tend and look after. And you'll know if you're a gardener, you look after them, you take the dead leaves out, and you give it water, and you tend it and give it fertilizer. And all of those are like parables that we find in the Bible. But this is really important. The reason I'm using this and saying that that's an important thing for us is because that's really what we're about. The whole point of the community garden, yes, it's about growing food to give to folk, etc. But it's primarily as a crossing place. The garden is a crossing place for people, so that we can meet with them in a way that is more natural. Okay, so to start off with, we'll look at a bit of theology. Just a quick read. Ros is going to come and read these passages. These are quite fundamental passages that talk about why we look after the environment and why the creation is so important.
So why do churches believe the environment is a gospel issue? Well, it underpins theology. So Genesis 1 says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our own image, in our own likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and the livestock, and over all the creatures that move along the ground.'" Colossians 1:15-20 says, "He, Jesus, is the image of the universe, of the invisible God, of the firstborn of all creation." Psalm 24 verse 1 says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it." The fifth mark of mission is to strive to safeguard the integrity of creation and sustain and renew the life of the earth. And this is an ever-pressing need to make a difference.
Thank you, Ros. It's interesting, isn't it, that I'm not sure who it was, somewhere in the Anglican, some council put together the 5 marks of mission, and one of them is about looking after the earth and creation, because it is a central biblical theme, as we saw there in the passage, the one in Genesis, where it talks about us being stewards. And often we sort of know that, but we're not. Anyway, it's become a more pressing issue, obviously, because of climate change and all of those things, and it's high on an agenda. And what I've found is that actually just growing in your garden is high on the agenda as well. And it's really heartening because I didn't get into this until about 2016 when I saw this as a great way to engage people. And we'll talk more about that a bit later on. But the fifth mark of mission is really important. Now, I hear from David that you're linked in with A. Rocha. Hands up those who know about A. Rocha and the Bronze Award. Okay, well, there's more of you need to know about this. You need to talk to David about this because you are an eco church and you have a Bronze Award for your, what do you call it, your behavior, your actions, your events, and all sorts of things about the building as well. Now, David is striving to get a silver award, and we are also. We're in the same position. And you have to tick a lot more boxes for the silver award, and it's a bit more difficult. But he needs your help. So all of those who never heard about this need to talk to him because he needs your help. Okay. So that's one thing. And I know from also that you've had a recent review of your ministry and mission. And part of that, the outcome of that, is about engaging more with your local community, perhaps with schools. But, you know, you've got an interesting sort of transient community that walk the Ridgeway. And I was here a couple of weeks ago for the 3 Peaks Challenge. There must have been near 1,000 people walk past your church. A great opportunity, perhaps, for engaging in a very significant way because it was Rennie Grove Hospice, and people were walking because they had a memory of somebody who had died, and they left memory thoughts on a leaf and put it in the orchard that's just a little way down. So it's an interesting crossing point there, perhaps. So St. Peter's Church is in Quarrendon. Hands up those who know where Quarrendon is. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so we don't need to say too much about Quarrendon. Quarrendon is one of the 10 most disadvantaged wards in the county, and we are very much an estate church. So about 60, 70 years ago, the estate was built, and actually St. Peter's was built at the same time. And we have a very simple message to bring, purpose, which is to bring hope and wholeness to that community. But not just by action and projects and things, but it's by encountering Jesus. And we will do projects and things, but the purpose of that is to build relationships with people, so that they, at some point, will encounter Jesus. And you know, it's an important fact to realize when talking to folk is that we're all on a journey, and at different points on that journey. And the great thing about the community garden is you can help people. They can come at various stages in their journey, but because it's long-term project growing things, you get a chance to get to know them and help them on their journey and find out about them and build trust. And over that bridge of trust, you can share Jesus. Hence the fifth mark of mission, I believe. And we'll introduce you to the garden, but it's a place that is open access in a deprived estate. And a lot of people said it would be ruined within the first couple of days. Well, we've had virtually no vandalism, and we're now in our 6th growing season. So there's something significant there, I think. Anyway, Vi's going to come and talk to you about the beginnings, because she's been around a lot longer at St. Peter's than I have. So Vi, come and tell us about the beginnings, please.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Vi, and I am a member of the Community Garden core team at St. Peter's in Aylesbury. I have had a lifelong interest in gardening. As a youngster growing up on a farm, I helped my dad in the vegetable garden and learned a lot from him. With my husband, we had a small garden in which we grew some vegetables, and I had lots of pots and hanging baskets to bring seasonal colour. And for some years, we also maintained an allotment. As I approached retirement, I began to think about what had been a long-held idea, wish of mine, to be involved with or start up a community garden. Hence my involvement with St. Peter's Community Garden came about. St. Peter's Church was built in the early 60s on a very generous plot of land in the estate of Quarrendon. There is a small car park providing space for approximately 10 cars. This car park became a contentious issue because local people would use it, and some of them were beginning to drive over the grassed areas. When Pete Wheeler came and joined us as curate in 2017, at our first DCC meeting with him as the chair, ideas were raised as to how we might overcome this problem. And some people suggested planting hedgerows around the edge of the car park. And I stood up and said, well, why don't we start a community garden? And I was absolutely delighted when Peter Wheeler said, and that is on the agenda for the future plans for St. Peter's. Dave will tell you more about how that evolved and developed ever since then. So do you want me to talk about the people?
No, later.
Right, okay. More to come.
By the way, if you look there, you can see the tire marks and the ridges in the grass where people have been driving, over the grass. You can see it in the grass there. This is a view looking the other way. And you'll see now the changes that we've been able to bring about. A little bit about me. For 35 years, I've been doing community development work. I took a career change from being a research scientist a long time ago now. And so I've been doing that ever since. And I worked for 10 years with the district council in Wickham. And I know this area and done work around here as well. And then I was involved in some consultancy work as a community development practitioner for 15 years in Bucks. So that's been my focus in Bucks, although I've done work in other parts of the country. And in 2017, I moved into Aylesbury, and I didn't know anybody in Aylesbury. And I'd spent nearly 2 years looking for a church where I would feel comfortable, moving away from what was my original church. And it was a 2-year journey, and I was quite frustrated. I really just didn't have that real sense of peace. And I went to another church over in Hitchin, and the guy there was just done some training, and I was talking to him about where I was and my struggle. And he said, well, I've got his friend he trained with me, and I'll give you his address. He's in Aylesbury. I'm sure he'd be keen for you to some of the things I've shared. He said, you'll get on well with him. So he gave me his email address, and Pete then replied. And he said, I'm at St. Peter's. You see, now, St. Peter's Church, I do a morning run, or I did. And I used to go through the estate, because it's actually my nearest church. And I looked into this church, and I tried to peek in through the windows that are about this high. It's impenetrable. And there were crucifixes on the wall and pews, and I couldn't see any life, really. And I sort of dismissed it. Anyway, that is actually where I now attend. So I went along, and the first day I went along, after the service, Pete Wheeler's wife, Ali, was saying, Pete's got this mad idea about having a church garden, a community garden around the church. And I said, that's funny, because that's what I do. So way back, a good 6 or 7 years before this, I discovered through my project work in communities that actually getting people involved in ecological things and in gardening and nature really attracted them. And I was quite surprised, but I recognised that. So ended up creating a community allotment in High Wycombe for a number of years, and still have that now. So I was already doing this, and I was able to then link with a new arm of the council, which was called Aylesbury Garden Town. Has anybody recognised that as something? I'm not sure it's said much about now, but we had designation from the government for Aylesbury Garden Town. So I went along to their meetings because I was obviously interested. I knew lots of the councillors and people there, and and I spoke about some of the things I wanted to do. One was a community garden. And they thought, oh, well, we can sponsor you to do that. We can give you funding. So to start off with, we had funding from Aylesbury Garden Town to fund me to set up the garden. It was only a day a week, but it was enough to start. It was something. But then in October, they created something called the Communities and Partnership Project. It's a team of people, well, it was 2 of us, because they invited me then to be part of that. I didn't apply for it. They took me to the pub one night and said, do you want to come and join us? Clearly, my experience was of use. So worked with them, and we had the charity that I formed around my consultancy work. It's called Community Transform. Was the organisation that they partnered with, and we did that for 3 years. We had a 3-year contract with them, and in that time, I set up 7 community gardens around Aylesbury. So that's sort of my background in this. So we were funded for 3.5 years through the garden town, which is a great asset. So in March 2019, I got some pallet toppers, which are these bits of wood with hinges on the corner, and threw them on the ground and started to lay out a community garden. And almost straight away, a lad from the end house on the left came out. His name's Kai. And he said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, can I help? So he helped me to do this, to fill it up with soil, etc. And then his dad came out, and I met them. Now, over time, that connection has been quite significant, and Kaylee, as we believe, has taken a step of faith. And Kai is very close. He's now in year 11. It's a long time ago now. And I still have contact with him, and I saw him just the other weekend, and he reminded me of the first day that we got there. And I think that is something I want to emphasize, is that the community garden can act as a crossing place between people who have no interest and no experience of coming to church, where they can meet with Christians and where they can begin to understand, and you get an opportunity to build a relationship with them. Now, hands up those. Can somebody tell me what the strapline is on your logo? It says St. Mary's. What's the strapline underneath? Church at the heart of the community. Isn't that brilliant? So you're the church at the heart of the community. And I think through the community garden, creating something like a community garden, or something that suits you particularly in your context, but with some of the principles that we use to develop this work, would actually be of great value to you in terms of actually becoming the heart of the community. We started off by doing that, and then there's the pallet topper. Then we put some bean poles in, and we planted potatoes, and we get a little bit of growth. So it's very early days, as you can see there. And Vi is going to talk to us in a minute about linking the work that she's been doing. But the flowers is also an important part of what we do. And so many people talk about, we're on a bus route, and people say, well, I often see it when I come around. It's so beautiful to see all the flowers. It's something that brings joy to people just in doing that. So it brings lots and lots of benefits, which we'll talk about. And there you can see the green space actually goes along the back of the church as well. It's quite an extensive, and there's a field the other side that's almost as big as the car park. So this is our community cafe, which we run on a Thursday on between 10 and 12. And jump ahead. And these are some of the people. Only one of these people come to church, but I got them engaged in planting out some tomatoes, and they learnt some skills there, and they had a bit of fun, and they saw them grow until they're about this high, and then they ate the tomatoes. So there's a bit of a circle there. Anyway, Vi, come and talk to us about some of these folks and some of the people that you've met with.
Okay, well, as Dave has just shown, folks coming to the community cafe on a Thursday have been actively involved and are very much encouraged to to do so, and they take part in planting and nurturing the vegetables, and they're encouraged to harvest and take away whatever they want to when the time is ready. Being involved in the garden has helped many people. For me, it was a place of solace and comfort to be following the loss of my husband at the end of 2019. I found working in the garden very therapeutic as I grieved for him alone during the COVID lockdown. And one gentleman who came along to use the food bank outlet at the church asked about the community garden, and turns out that he was a very keen gardener himself. And he came back the following week and kept on coming back for several months and became a very strong member of our team. And he said that it had helped him. It was a real focus for him and helped him to come to terms with his mental health issues. The garden has become an integral part of St. Peter's and the wider community. People come and talk with us. They sit on the seats that are available, and they share their troubles and anxieties, and whereby they might not really have felt comfortable going into the church and doing so. But with a little gentle persuasion from us, they do so, and they are always very pleasantly surprised when they feel the welcome and warmth of being part of the church family.
And we do quite often find people just sat there doing things. There was a Muslim young lady sat there the other day, and she had her phone out, and she was doing her prayer time, sat on one of our old pews that we've painted and repurposed. But there was an executive once who came, and I was there I'd never been there at that time of day, and it was the end of the day, and he was there, and I sort of sold up and said, "Hello, who are you?" And he said, "Oh, I often come here at the end of the day. It's a place I can find a bit of peace after a busy day." And it's great. There's so many people that benefit from it in so many different ways. This is what it looks like today. It's a little bit different to how it was when it was an empty field. And it's just like an allotment. There's nothing special about it. We've laid it out in a special way. We've got a lovely cabin that's like an office some people have at the bottom of their gardens. And around that, we have an area that I purposely set out when laying out the garden, which is the communal area. Whenever I set out a community garden, that's a really vital part, is where are we going to meet and how are we going to do that? Maybe it's around a barbecue. In this case, it was just a half-moon shape with radial paths coming out with beds around it. Now, if you look, you can only just see it. There's a stained glass window in the end of our church. And I didn't realize that was there. I laid it out as a quarter of a sun with sun rays, and there we've got two of them captured in the stained glass window. Just an accident, but an interesting sidelight. That's how we set it out. So there's all sorts of things that we've been up to. So we're 6 seasons on now. This is our 6th season. We went through COVID, which is quite a difficult time, quite interesting. But fortunately, it's outdoor work. So we have a core group of volunteers that work on it, and people join and leave in different ways. There's 7 that are associated at different levels of commitment. But around that, there's all sorts of people who come. Some are referred to us. Some come on a regular basis. Some come infrequently. There's one guy who was referred by the doctor who's got Alzheimer's, and his wife comes to the cafe and he comes to the garden. He didn't want to go in the cafe, and she doesn't want to do the gardening, so it suits him quite well. And his Alzheimer's is quite bad, but actually he still remembers how to garden. He's very strong, and he keeps on going beyond what I do sometimes. We've got to ask him to slow down. But he does it, and it's a great value to him, and his wife is really supported. Now, she's very quiet, but now she's talking with some of the folk and the agencies who come to the cafe to help folk. And we're making a difference there, I think, in their lives. We distribute the produce to the volunteers primarily, because they're often picking it. There's some people who just come from the community and pick because it's totally open access, which is fine, as long as they don't take too much. And then we've got the food bank, which is a distribution point, and where we can, we try and add fresh food to their parcels as they take away. The church closes its doors at least 3 times a year, and we have services there. We have, I got it with me. No, I didn't bring it with me. I don't know what I've done with it. Anyway, we've got our Harvest Festival next weekend, and it's a real festival. Closing the church doors, we're going to have bunting, we're going to have activities, craft activities, some prayer stations. We'll have a barbecue, and we've got a DJ. So it's quite a different sort of service. But what we're trying to do there is to create a tradition of having a festival in our community that everybody's welcome to. A bit like we do with our Good Friday when we have a mobile farm come. And it's just a way that we can increase the contact. And I particularly want to use this because I want to recruit a lot more volunteers. And then Great Doors, which Ros will talk about towards the end. We have work days when we come on a Saturday morning, and everybody's invited, and there's a lot of work gets done. And there are times in the year when we need a lot of work, and there are times in the year when there's not so much work to do. And then we're expanding. So you saw the cabin there, but also we've recently got ourselves a polytunnel. So that's another view of the garden as it is now. That was in May. I think that was in June. You see the paths. The paths are carpet tiles, and they've lasted. They're in their 6th season. It's quite amazing, but they're so much better than something like wood chip, because people can go around those in a wheelchair, and I've made them deliberately that wide enough to do that, so that everybody can get access to them. Here's Vi standing next to our new polytunnel. So we're hoping that's going to give us extra capacity. And then we've Aylesbury in Bloom. We've got a ceremony on Thursday, which will tell us how we've been judged this year, which is really exciting. We've been there 5 years, and we've got gold award each time. So that's we don't do it for that, but it's great to have that recognition. We've got a focus on composting, so we've now got an expert composter in our volunteers. Done lots of research, and we've got now quite a production line going, which is really good. And we're finalists in the Church Times Award, which is a great shock, to be honest, but it's really good. So the category there is green health, and that obviously relates to all the additional things that we get involved with, not just in gardening. And we've got a partnership with a number of organisations that we link with, who use us and refer people to us, and that is really, again, about the green health, and particularly now developing a close link with the local primary care network for our 2 surgeries. So that's a really key aspect of what we do, engaging with them and finding ways that we can work together, and they can use us and we can benefit from their input. This was preparation for a community barbecue that we did as Pete Wheeler and his wife and me in the middle, and actually some of our other volunteers are around there as well. There's a view of our community cafe, which is very busy, very, very busy. But it's great, and an awful lot of the people that come are not connected with a Christian faith or come to church services. They come because it's a place to socialise, and they get a chance to meet people who care about them. And I think it's significant, the numbers that come through. This is a great picture of our community garden because there's a number of people here, and there's people who are residents very, very close. There are people who we see on a regular basis and we've formed a relationship with. Some are easier to get on with than others. But the lady in the middle between on the left-hand side, straight down near the cabin. She's great. She's really great, and she comes and she's found a place where she can be. She often has problems with people, but she keeps coming back, which is great. And she's talking to some agency people there from the council. And then around the back is some pupils from the PACE group. You may know PACE. It's on the Wendover Road going in, but we've got a school, essentially, just behind us. We share a fence with them. And they come on a regular basis when they can, and they can come down. They can come down the path, and I've created a raised bed for them where they can do their own planting. And then they go around the garden and they look at what's changed during the week or since they were last there, and their assistants with them, they point things out. And it's a great thing to be able to offer that. They come, we don't need to be there. They come and they go, but they use it and they benefit from it, which is really great, I think. So we're all about promoting well-being. This concept of shalom. Shalom is translated as in the Bible often as peace. And people think that this is just lack of conflict, shalom. Or you say shalom is a greeting. But actually the concept of shalom is very, very deep. And it's a thread of it, runs right the way through Scripture. And the concept of shalom is about well-being. And you get well-being when you have your relationships right. You know, right with God, right with yourself, right with people around you, and right with the earth. And when all that's in place, you'll have true shalom. And I think when we get to heaven, we'll experience the shalom. But we're about trying to bring shalom into this world. And I think Jesus uses that word in a number of places in Scripture about having peace, real peace. So we're using the garden to create a new worshipping community. That means people don't necessarily have to come into the building. Their experience of church might just be in the garden. And they will experience some peace through that. So our, particularly the Grow Outdoors activity is emerging in that, and we're learning how to go about that. It's also proven as an effective way of relating and linking with people. I've already mentioned that. There's huge benefits from being involved in gardening or in nature. Just going out in nature changes your physiology. Different chemicals are released when you go for a walk through a forest, which medical science is now telling us. Some recent research showed that looked at a cohort of people who were from 11 to 79, okay, and they looked at their 11 plus results. And they got them to take the test again, the same test. And they did other tests on them and asked them questions. And what they found was that those who did gardening, because that was the question that they asked, those who did gardening, they had a greater life expectancy, they had lower propensity for Alzheimer's, and they had greater cognitive ability. They got them to take the 11 plus again. And those who did gardening did better. Those who didn't do gardening didn't do as well. Sounds amazing, but that's what's there. So I thoroughly recommend that you get involved in doing gardening. I mentioned the other things. So, and clearly number 5 is like the fifth mark of mission is what we're doing. We're getting people to think about the earth and do things with it. Now, Ros is going to come and tell us just a bit about this Grow Outdoors activity. Thank you, Ros.
Good morning. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what Grow Outdoors is and what we do at Grow Outdoors. So Grow Outdoors has been around for about 3 years. It's an after-school session that runs every Tuesday from 3:15 to 4:15 for children between the ages of 5 and 13 years old. And they must be accompanied by their parent. So when Grow Outdoors first came about, it was initially just called After School Drop-In, and it came about and evolved alongside our community garden. It was our previous garden facilitator, Lizzie, that saw that St Peter's had a youth group for teenagers, and it had a baby and toddler group, but nothing for children of the ages 5 to 13. So there was nothing in between. So in order to engage with children of that particular age, we noticed that St. Peter's sits right in between two primary schools, one on either side. And so we decided to set up an after-school group. Initially, it was just an after-school group for children and families to come along and do some gardening and do some planting and enjoy the garden. But then Lizzie moved on, and Lydia Lee, our trainee curate, came on board, and through engagement with the Greenhouse Project, the after-school drop-in went through a few changes. And then it became Grow Outdoors. Initially, we were a little bit apprehensive about bringing Bible worship into Grow Outdoors, as we weren't really sure how it would be received by the children and the families that come along, as none of the families that initially came to Grow Outdoors came to church on a regular basis. But someone once said to us just to be bold and go for it, so we did. And initially, the parents that came along were a little bit shocked and a little bit like, we're not sure about this, but over time they engaged. And now our ethos for Grow Outdoors is Bible-based worship. And we do that through devoting some of our time to a Bible story and some of our time to spiritual reflection. And we've achieved this through building relationships with the families that attend, and by bringing worship to the families through what we call creative worship. We encourage the families to look after the garden together, to plant and to harvest the fruit and vegetables in the community garden. We provide them with food bags, and this encourages the families not only to take home what they've grown and harvested, but it encourages them to eat healthily and also to be thankful to God for the produce that He has provided. Now, Grow Outdoors has grown and developed in our community over the years, and we've also taken the opportunities to link with other things happening at St. Peter's, such as carols around the Christmas tree, Light in the Darkness, and our community cafe. When a lot of our families first came to Grow Outdoors, they were a little bit apprehensive about engaging with other activities, but through building those relationships, over time, those families have come to a lot of different activities at church and are starting to realise that for them, this is church in the garden. So as a group leader, leading young people through their faith journey, I've been really, really encouraged and really inspired seeing the way in which the children, the parents have engaged with the worship element of Grow Outdoors and the way in which they've grown in their own faith just through attending Grow Outdoors. And we're immensely proud of what Grow Outdoors has done and achieved. A lot of the children that come to Grow Outdoors are children that have challenges and children that have specific needs. So they're children with autism or children with ADHD. And that hour that they come to Grow Outdoors makes a massive difference, not just to them, but to their parents. And sometimes they will engage, and they will engage really well, and other times it can be quite chaotic. But that's okay, because they're engaging with Jesus, and they're listening, and they're growing in their faith.
So, this is a picture of some Grow Outdoors activity with some of the guys there, and it's really good to see that. Now, there's a sort of a little network of churches that I work with. I've been going over to the Flackwell Heath Christchurch to give them advice about trying to set up a community garden. Be very happy to, if that's something that's on your agenda, we can look at ways of doing that. We're working with St Mary's in Aylesbury also, in the churchyard there, to create different places, different spaces. Do have a look at our exhibition board at the back. There's a lot there about the approach and the strategy behind what I use. There's one thing particularly that I'd be keen for you to look at and think about, which is the 5 ways to well-being, which is, it talks about some research which has shown that these things are crucial for your well-being, but also the well-being of the people that you're reaching out to in your mission work. And it's good to just go through that and tick it and see, are we actually ticking all these boxes for the people we're trying to reach to? Okay.
Hi. Thank you, Dave, and Vi and Ros, for sharing so much, as David said, a lot for us to be thinking about. This week, usual things, there's Sparklers tomorrow, there's the 10 o'clock service on Thursday morning. It's PCC on Wednesday night, if you're part of that. And then next Saturday at 12 noon will be Margaret Seabrook's funeral and service of celebration. So if you knew Margaret, come and celebrate all that she was for her almost 99 years. It's quite remarkable. Things that are happening. Next week there's afternoon teas on Sunday afternoon. Natalie's here. It's the last one that we're doing that way. If you can help at all, then please speak to her. On the 5th of October, we've got a wedding fair that Natalie and her friend Maisie have been organising for us. So we've got lots of people coming in who are suppliers, this is the right word, I think, to be saying, but we want to be able to offer teas and cakes, things like that. So again, if you're able to help, have a word with Natalie afterwards or get in touch with her. Other things that are coming up, there's a barn dance on the 25th of October. I know that tickets are in the shop for that. I think that's everything that I need to tell you today.